What's up, my fellow emo pop punk metalcore music lovers? Matrix here, and you are locked into the Matrix Music Review Podcast, the only place to get your alt rock scene music fix. We are back with another review episode, structuring it a little bit different today. We're going to talk more about the things that I've had going on the past week or so since we've done a podcast first, and then we'll get into the reviews, and that's how we'll end it with all the reviews. Had a bunch of reviews this week. I don't know what the hell happened in the past 2 weeks, but all of a sudden there was just this mini explosion of new albums, new music, all this new stuff coming out recently, and it's hard to keep up. It's hard to keep up if I don't get this out on a weekly basis, but we kept up this time. I got, I think, 6 reviews, something like that, and we'll talk about all those. We'll get ready for our next lineup of reviews, which is going to include Spiritbox's new album, which, as of this recording, drops tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that, looking forward to hearing from Spiritbox. It's been a little bit since I've gotten a full collection of their stuff, so really looking forward to that. In the meantime, I just want to talk real quick about something that I'm doing personally, and that is I have actually started reading Deryck Whibley's Memoir. If you don't know, Deryck Whibley is the lead singer for Sum 41, and I'm only a couple chapters in, but holy fuck, what a beginning to his life that man had. We're talking, knives to the throat, and we're talking being robbed and all these different things up in Canada and moving all these different times, and it's absolutely insane to see all of these different things. And he's just kind of talking about how this shaped his life and shaped the band, and it's interesting to see how this band formed and all the different influences that he had and that they had kind of coming up. So really interesting to see all of that, and it's kind of like a time capsule and kind of jolting us back into time and looking at all that. So I'm excited to finish that up and see what all Deryck has to say in this memoir. So far, so great. So I'm looking forward to that. In addition to that, I've obviously been listening to a lot of different singles lately, and I just wanted to highlight a couple real quick because I think it's important to kind of highlight some of these artists that may not have a ton of monthly listeners on Spotify. They may have been relatively new finds for me, and obviously they're linked in the playlist, but the first one I want to talk about is Falling Through Faith, and that's going to be a review that we get to a little bit later, but what a find they have been. I'm excited to go into that review a little later. Another one is Why Does It Get to Be You by a band called You Over Me, which is just this high energy pop punk sound. They're coming from London, super, super catchy, and I really think you guys are going to dig this track, Why Does It Get to Be You? So go check that one out. And then the last track I want to talk about is a song called Ends Like This by Call Me Nightly. Another one that just is super fun. It's like pop punk, pop rock, but it's got such a catchy chorus to it, and it's really hard not to find yourself singing this one. And it's been on repeat since I found it. I want to do a little bit of a deeper dive into this artist. There's some more songs on Spotify that I haven't checked out yet. But if you're somebody that really enjoys being the person to put your friends on to new music, especially in this alternative music scene, all of these artists have less than 1,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. So I can almost guarantee your friends haven't heard of them yet, but let's get them introduced and let's start spreading the word on these 3 artists because I really, really enjoy what I hear so far. And I imagine that I'm going to continue to like what I hear. So Falling Through Faith, You Over Me, Call Me Nightly, all 3 bands and artists that need to be on your radar. Go check out their new singles. They're linked in the latest playlist update. Which jumps us into my normal of Control-Alt-Save, the playlist on Spotify. You can go over there, save it to your library so you can stay up to date every time I add new songs to it. I try to do that weekly, and you get new tracks, not just the ones that I review on the show, but other ones as well. If you're listening on Apple Music or Spotify, please leave a 5-star review, leave a comment, let me know how I'm doing, let me know who's an artist that you think I should be aware of. Maybe I haven't talked about them yet, maybe I haven't reviewed them yet. If there's an album that I didn't review that you want a full-length review on, let me know. I'll be happy to do that as well. And make sure you head on over to YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Once we start getting some subscribers over there, and once we start getting some movement over there, I'll start posting some video content, especially with all the shows I got coming up and Warped Tour and all that other stuff. I'll definitely be trying to utilize that platform a little bit more for things. So I think with that, we're going to jump right into our reviews because, like I said, we got a bunch today. But the first one we're going to talk about is Finding Closure by All Systems Go. This is the new EP from All Systems Go. They have a pop punk, pop rock sound. And I think when I listened to this EP, the first thing that came up was that this is very clearly a solid sound, solid lyrics all the way throughout this. I had linked the single a while back, but Everything Going Good is a Bad Thing. It's really just about a way of saying goodbye to someone. And when you're saying goodbye to this person, it almost feels like it's someone that you want to leave, or that someone that wants you to leave. And that was just such an interesting, fun track to me, because you hear basically this person saying, like, don't forget me when you're famous. I feel like a lot of times that does happen, where people have this like realization that they're definitely not going to work out with the person that they're with, but they feel like that person might be destined for better and greater things. And so they're basically just saying like, hey, don't forget me when you're famous, because I kind of was here at the beginning, but I also know that we're probably not going to work out. And that track flows right into Empty Hearts and Open Regrets, which definitely kind of feels like there's a story being told here, right? Like, we get this beginning of, you know, they're together, and then you're having an empty heart because of what you've done, and now you're openly regretting what you've done. It's kind of a nice little flow in this very compact EP. This EP ends with a song that is an absolute gut punch, at least the way that I interpreted the track, in a song called Survivor's Guilt. And the title alone, it just kind of stood out right away. I was like, hold on, what is this track going to be about? And to me, it's definitely about wishing you could have helped someone more that's already gone, and wishing you could have told them something that could have changed their mind, or wishing you would have said more to them when they were around so that they knew that they were appreciated. And that's a tough one. I think everybody kind of has those feelings if they've ever been put in that situation. And it's just a really thoughtful, well done track. And I was really, really happy with a track like that. Overall, it's a solid EP from a really fun band. I think when we look at EPs, this is a 4 out of 5 for me. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing, that really needed too much improvement, but it was a really solid EP. So 4 out of 5 for the new EP from All Systems Go, Finding Closure. Go check it out. Next up is Martyr by Softspoken. Now, this is the new EP from what I would consider a heavy pop punk band. And we've heard just about all of these tracks already, but I think it's important to touch on this EP because of how well done all of these tracks are, and just how much fun I've had with Softspoken and getting to know that band. Invincible is a track that has stuck with me kind of going into this year. And to me, Invincible kind of feels like this. I'm comparing it to what my situation was last year with True North, Still Enough, where it's a song that was released kind of towards the end of a year, flowed into the new year, and really just kind of hit the ground running and became the track that when I was still trying to get new music from the beginning of the year, that was kind of the one that I just kept going back to from the end of last year. And I think that's amazing. And I think their band name, Softspoken, is really kind of ironic in a sense, because I do feel like their sound is almost got this soft edge to it. It's not necessarily a smacking you in your face edginess, but there is like this soft edge to them. And in a song like I Against Me, it shows that extremely well. And, whether it's the lyrics like I'm a slave to the envy that I keep close, or just the sound of it where there's enough electric guitar in it to kind of feel like it's got an edge, but not overpowering, and really just like, just going with the electric guitar. I think that kind of makes that point. Love Talk is such an explosive end to the EP, and I think with this EP, what I mentioned at the top is that, look, we know that we have gotten most of these songs before, but when we get a collection and an artist releases a lot of their tracks in a collection as an EP, to me, it's almost doing the artist and the band an injustice by not reviewing it, because they're releasing them all together for a reason. They're releasing them all together for a purpose. And yes, they trickled out as singles, but unfortunately, that's just kind of the way that music is nowadays, right? Like, we don't just get 2 singles and then an album drop anymore, because bands aren't really looking for radio airplay. Yeah, they'll take it if they get it, of course, but bands aren't sending singles to radio with the intention of them getting mainstream play and then dropping an album right after that, touring the album, and then doing the exact same thing. Especially not in this scene. That might be the method over in the pop world, but that ain't the method over here in the alt scene. That's for damn sure. But EP was really solid from Softspoken. I give it a 4.4 out of 5. Again, I was really, really impressed with this sound. I'm really enjoying it a lot. So if you haven't heard it yet, go check out Martyr by Softspoken. Next up, we got Anti-Bloom by Silverstein. This is the first of a supposed 2 albums to be released by Silverstein this year. And when I listened to this album, I think one of the things that stood out to me was there's definitely a mix of classic Silverstein sounds with some experimental new sounds as well. And it starts immediately with the classic sound and Mercy Mercy. Sonically, Mercy Mercy hits all of the boxes that you would expect from a Silverstein song. And the vocal delivery on it is great as well. It has that edge, it has that grit to it, and it just hits exactly like you would expect. And then it flows into a track like Don't Let Me Get Too Low, which is kind of this toe dip into almost a new sound, as is their song Confession. And to me, vocally, it strays just a little bit from the norm, just a little bit, because there's less screams in these tracks. But when you get them, they're not as heavy and in your face. It's more muted. It's more calculated. They've not really just gone into, we're not getting the smile in your sleep type of scream here. But they still give you those Silverstein lyrics of putting bullets in an already broken heart. Like, these are the types of things we've come to expect from Silverstein, who's been a staple in the emo scene since it became a thing. And these experimental tracks really have left me kind of wondering, what would my reaction be to a full album of Silverstein kind of doing this new-ish sound? Because we've seen kind of 2 different methods of this play out with some of our scene staples trying new things. We've seen a band like The Used, which has just not connected with me at all, and I feel like it hasn't connected with other people at all. And then we've seen bands like Mayday Parade, which have just adjusted a tad bit and has really seen some success. I think, by the way, is one of the best songs of the year so far. And their new track that they just released, Towards You, holy fuck, what a track that is. That's an amazing Mayday Parade song, and it's really got me hyped for that new album. But what would the reaction be if Silverstein did it? I don't know if it's going to hit the same or if it's going to kind of fall somewhere in the middle. With the middle of this particular album, it really just didn't do much for me. Stress, I Will Destroy This, they both really didn't kind of move the needle for me one way or the other. The album Ender is an absolute classic emo, slow down, introspective song about feeling off and questioning things and questioning the balance of your life and all these different things. And so it was only, I think, 8 or 9 tracks. So when I look at the total volume here, it's a little bit less than I would have expected from Silverstein. But with that being said, I don't think it's a bad record. I don't think it's a bad album. I think overall it's okay. I think it's a 7.3 out of 10. I don't think it's anything that leaves me saying I'm definitely not listening to part 2. I think, if anything, it makes me more interested in part 2 because I want to know what exactly they did with this kind of breakdown. How did they break these albums apart? So I'm interested to see when album 2 comes out and see what it's all about. But if you haven't heard it yet, go check out Anti-Bloom from Silverstein. Next up is Echoes of the Past by Falling Through Faith. As I mentioned at the top, this is a really new discovery for me. Just in my music discovery process, I just happened to stumble upon a video with one of their tracks behind it. I thought it was really kind of a good sound, so I wanted to see what was going on. And when I went to Spotify, they just released the new album, so perfect timing. They are a post-hardcore Christian band, and to me, immediately I have vibes of Reliant K, Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, or if you were with me and you're a fan of the podcast, if you're a fan of the podcast and you've been following along, Sam Hauge is somebody that this is a very similar sound to. And immediately when I listen to this band and this album, the first song that I hear off the album is Bury the Weight. As soon as I hear that track, I knew that this was going to be something that I really connected with. It's an album filled with breakdowns. It's filled with really strong instrumentals. And a song like Lost Without You really hit me because it has such a great instrumental, because there's this really interesting choice that kind of has this heaviness leading into the chorus, and then it cuts all the instruments off except for some kind of acoustics and then blasts it back in there. And this is around the 40-second mark, and then it goes all the way to the 53-second mark with the kind of just a piano over top and then blasting back into the instrumentals. And those are different things that, again, it's something that stands out to me. It might not be something that everybody pays attention to, but it's something that really stood out and was a little different to me. And there are tracks that you get an extra punch. A song like Drowning in Silence, you get some screams that really give it that extra oomph and that extra grit to it. Surrender the Fight has this great heavy melodic mix that you get, kind of this melodic hardcore sound. And I think for me, that's kind of where I love hearing bands like this take this chance and take these chances. I think a lot of people would stray away from a band that kind of says, oh, we're a post-hardcore Christian band. Who gives a shit? Go listen to a band that's post-hardcore and tell me that it's not good. I don't care what the messaging is behind it, but a band like Falling Through Faith is one that really does need to be on everybody's radar because their sound is perfect. They have this grit, they have this energy, their vocal delivery is really strong. Lyrically, there's a lot of good to be found in there. And this was one of the better debuts that I've heard. It's a really sick debut. I'm scoring it an 8.8 out of 10. If you haven't heard of them, go check them out. Falling Through Faith, their new album, Echoes of the Past, out now. Next up is Detox by One OK Rock. This is a new album from the Japanese rock band. And when I started listening to One OK Rock, one of the things that really stood out is how anthemic their sounds are. Their sound sounds like it's almost perfectly created for stadiums and for arenas and places like that. And it's almost like it's a fancy anthemic sound, like a song like Dystopic. You find euphoria in dystopia, and it has just like this aura to it that really gives it something that's a little bit fancier than some of our classic anthems that we may hear. I love the lightness in a song like Tropical Therapy. There is nothing flashy about that song. That song is basically talking all about how you need to get away and how you need a tropical therapy. Very simple, very effective. And I think it's also interesting that they were able to mix Japanese with English in songs like Party's Over, that also has some heavier instrumentation to it. The song Matter on this album is easily the catchiest song that I've heard in a while. I'm not going to attempt to sing the chorus, but just know that the chorus has a line that says, "Do I matter to you?" Go listen to it. Again, I'm not going to sing it on here because I am not a singer. I would fuck it up royally, but it's got a really cool little production choice there with "Do I Matter to You," how they do it. But I think my favorite on this record is Curiosity, which is a Pale Dusk feature. There is some type of unmatched energy in this song. The screams and the blacks hit hard, and the flow is awesome in this. And that's really where it comes to, is the flow in this entire record is some of the best that I've heard all year. Again, this is the type of record that may not be for everybody, especially if you're listening to my podcast, you're a fan of heavier music, if you're a fan of just pop punk music. This may not be something that you like because it is almost, I guess it's kind of mainstream, but also it's a little more anthemic. It's a little more stadium rock vibe. But I think if you give it a chance, you might really enjoy this because there is some different intricacies with One OK Rock that really stand out and kind of set them apart from the rest. In terms of ratings, this is going to be an 8.1 out of 10 for me. Really solid, but again, it may not be for everybody, but go check it out. Detox by One OK Rock. Before I get into the last review, I want to mention real quick that I did listen to the new album from Anxious called Bambi. I'm not giving a full review of this. It was a really, really solid record, but with all of the albums that I have to review, unfortunately, that was the one that got kind of kicked to the side, unfortunately, but really solid album. If you haven't heard it, go check it out. I think you guys will like it. But I have to talk about our last album, which is The Sky, the Earth, and All Between by Architects. New album from the metalcore band with 12 tracks, and for me, it was kind of one that I didn't realize how much I was anticipating it until I got it. I forgot how much I enjoyed Curse, how much I enjoyed Black Hole, and when I listened to this album, it just kind of delivered on all of my expectations. You get heavy melodic sounds on a track like Whiplash. Black Hole is still one of my favorite tracks of the year and easily one of my favorite music videos of the year. There's nothing really special about it, but you kind of just have the band standing on some type of structure in almost a day after tomorrow setting, and it really just makes the song feel a little bit more gritty and has that much more energy behind it. Brain Dead is a track that stood out to me, and I was like, wow, I really can kind of hear some production. Like, where have I heard these sounds before? Where have I heard this type of a feel before? And that's when I went on Spotify and I looked even closer and I went, I'm so fucking stupid. I should have known this a long time ago. Jordan Fish production. Jordan Fish, previously of Bring Me the Horizon, has done a lot of production on this album, and it's very abundantly clear right away. I mean, there is definitely the Jordan Fish sound. I think it was an interesting add to the Architects lineup here. He's not part of the band, but in terms of production, I think he brings a little bit of something different to Architects, and I really do think that it adds to the album. I don't think it hurts it in any way, and I think, if anything, it kind of almost elevates it a little bit to me. And one of the tracks that also stood out to me was Judgment Day with Amira El-Faki. Their vocals blend together so well. It's a perfect blend, and Amira El-Faki is really somebody that is starting to pique my interest a little bit more. Her track Death of Me this year is fantastic. It's on the playlist. Go check it out. But we're almost starting to get to the point with Amira that she's becoming this poppy level riser to me. We have her being featured on a track here with Architects. I'm sure there's probably some other collabs going on in the background that we don't know about. The solo stuff is coming out and it's sounding really, really good. And we're at the beginning of the year. Well, last year we had a feature with Poppy with Violence Against Nature with Bad Omens. And then it blasted into the Knock Blue Suffocate feature. And then Poppy's album came out and we were like, holy shit, this is an amazing artist. And I think that's about what we're going to see with Amira El-Faki. We'll probably get one more really good feature and then the new album's going to come out and it's going to be like, holy shit, where'd this artist come from? So keep Amira El-Faki on your radar as the next riser in the alt scene. And to finish off this record and to finish off this review, I think it's almost too appropriate that a lot of our albums this week ended with these introspective, feely tracks, and Architects did no different. They put Chandelier at the end, which is about feeling like this one less light if I'm gone. There's one less light if I'm gone and I'm not here, and that's one less light in the chandelier. And so this album really stood out to me. I don't know why I connected with it so much, why I enjoyed it so much, but this is going to get an 8.8 out of 10 for me. Really solid album from Architects. Obviously happy to see the Jordan Fish is out there doing his thing and really contributing to the scene still. It it would have been a fucking shame if Jordan Fish would have went just away. So I'm happy that he didn't go away. He's back doing his thing, and it's really kind of contributing to the scene and helping to elevate it. So if you haven't heard it yet, go check out The Sky, The Earth, All the In-Between by Architects, out now. That wraps it up for us here on Matrix Music Review. I hope everybody enjoyed all the reviews and the beginning about all the new artists. If you are on Spotify, go like the Control-Alt-Save playlist. That's where you can find all of the songs that were mentioned in this episode, as well as other ones that I've been listening to throughout the week. Head on over to Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you're listening to the podcast. Leave a review, leave it 5 stars. Let me know how I'm doing with everything. Let me know if you're enjoying the podcast. If you want something else on there, want somebody else featured on the podcast, somebody else featured on the playlist, I'm always open to submissions. So please don't feel like you can't send me things on Twitter, Instagram, wherever. I'm always open to listen to new music. Always happy to do that. Head on over to Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all the social medias. Follow at Matrix Music Review. I'm the most active over on Instagram. You'll get stuff, tour updates throughout the weeks, all those different things throughout the day. I'm trying to update as best as I can. And just make sure that you share the podcast with all your friends and family. Let's continue to grow our little alt-rock music community and continue to build the scene that we all know and love so much. With that, I'm out of here. I'll be back next time with a Spirit Box review and many, many more reviews.